Hey y'all, I'm Mayer Cunningham, the special education boss. If you've ever felt confused, overwhelmed, or just plain frustrated at the 504 IEP table, you are in the right place. Every week, I'm breaking down the rules, the rights, and the realities of special education so you can walk into meetings informed, empowered, and ready to make real change. And whether you're a parent, a teacher, an advocate, a school-based member, or somebody who's just trying to do right by a student, this podcast gives you straight talk, real answers, and tools that you can use immediately. I'm not here to play politics. I'm not here to play sides. I'm here to train people who sit at the table and teach you how to follow the law, ask the right questions, and protect the rights of students. So go ahead and hit subscribe, share this with a friend, and you know what? Meet me back here every single week. We're not just talking about change. We're making it. Because when you know better, you do better. And when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody.
Welcome, everybody. We're so glad that you're here for the show. I'm Mayer Cunningham, special education boss, training everyone who sits at the 504 IEP table to navigate and negotiate successful student outcomes. Today, we're so excited to have my colleague and my friend Cindy on, and she is going to share her story of parenting, her job, and switching to being an advocate. And we're so happy to have you, Cindy. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here today and honored.
Oh, awesome. So tell us a little bit about how you came to have a love for education or special education.
Okay, so I always knew that I would be a teacher. And my brother grew up struggling with reading, and he needed an advocate to step in for him way back in the 80s in Connecticut. And from that point on, I saw how much people could do if you advocate together and get those kiddos the help that they need. So from that point on, I followed in the footsteps of my sister, who became a teacher, and I became a teacher. And I knew that when I went into the classroom back in 1996, that I needed help. I was a teacher, I was young and idealistic, but I needed support to help my kiddos in school.
Yeah. So when you got your teaching degree, and I don't know how it works, does everybody have to become a general ed teacher first and then special ed, or what was your track that you took?
So the track that I took was a 4-year degree in early childhood elementary, which allowed me to teach general education, grades 1 through 6. And then I went back to school to get birth through age 3 or grade 3. And when I was in the classroom that first year, I realized that I was not equipped to meet the needs of the 32 students that I had in kindergarten.
32 kindergartners.
32.
Can you imagine 32 little 5-year-olds at your house? Ooh, thank God for Chuck E. Cheese, right?
Oh my goodness. Yes. And some of them could even be 4 because you had to be 5 before September 1st. So we had several 4-year-olds. And yes, it was a unique experience. And you take what you get. And I love them all, but I needed to be able to serve them where they were at.
So let me ask you a little bit about this. So we're working on getting teachers an ability to get their special ed certification faster, and then giving them really training in college and outside when they graduate. But when you got into the general ed classroom, the information that you learned, was it functional? Was it history? Was it really how to manage and serve a class?
It certainly was not how to manage and serve a class. In fact, in your internships, they did not allow you to come in until 2 weeks into the school year. And those 2 weeks at the beginning of the school year really teach you how to set up a classroom. And we did not get that experience.
Okay. So you just think it's like a hotel room. You walk in, the beds are here, here's a TV, but that's not how it is when you become your own teacher, right?
That is absolutely correct.
So let me ask you this. When teachers have, I always say back to school, they have, what is that called? They go back to a week early is
pre-planning.
Oh, pre-planning. And so is that a week? Is that 7 weeks? Is it 5 minutes? How long is that when teachers go back to the classroom?
Well, it depends on the county. In the counties that I was in, it would be 4 days.
Okay.
And you probably get about 1 day to set up your classroom. Many teachers go in a week or 2 before that on their own time.
Okay.
and a lot of meetings, um, but not
Meeting, are they meetings about how to be a good teacher and how to be a good special educator and how to take data?
certainly not. No.
Oh,
Where do you need to be and when for your schedule,
okay.
and how to get there, and the rules to get the kids to the classrooms that they need to be in.
Right. And so, for me, I am a information training junkie to an extreme. So when does the school, district, county, or city train their educators, their special educators, their para educators during the instructional year? Does that happen throughout the year?
We have professional developments on Wednesdays, at least in the state that I'm in. Two of them are 2 Wednesdays a month. You would have a training. They range on a variety of topics. They're usually repetitive. You've seen them each year. Unfortunately, it's not a lot of new information, and a lot of it doesn't pertain to what you would need for your children.
Okay. And so if you wanted that training, how would you get that training? Do you just ask your principal to bring in, you know, Bob the painter and he's going to teach us how to work with kindergartners? How does that work if you want more training with specificity?
Well, you can ask your principal, and they usually do take a survey. However, the issue seems to be, if they're going to bring in somebody with training, it's not specific to what you need. And often it's things that we have already tried as teachers, even new
Okay.
teachers, and it's not what we need.
Okay. Understood. So tell me about your journey from, did you start in Connecticut? Is that where you started teaching?
I started my first year of college in Connecticut. I moved to Florida and graduated from UCF, and then have my master's degree at Nova Southeastern. And I had my first job in inner city Orlando, and it you relied upon your team and the experience from the teachers that had been there in the past.
Right. So
For
when
most
you
of it,
when you started teaching, I know that you pivoted, correct me if I'm wrong, from general ed to special ed, or at least a specialist. Is that right?
I did. I pivoted several times. The first year that I taught, I realized I needed to go back and get my master's in special education and behavior, dual master's degrees, because I needed to know how those children learned. I
Right.
did not know. So I took my master's degrees, and then I pivoted again when I went to Seminole County, Florida, and I taught regular education. I became a literacy specialist and part of the admin team for MTSS. And that's where I truly began to learn that children are an onion, and they're made up different layers, and you have to pull those layers back. But it was more of going out and finding my own um, trainings online to figure out what makes those children work, or where the GPS is going to take us next, because our current route is not working.
Right. And so even as a general ed teacher, all general ed teachers are going to have kids with disabilities in their classroom to include 504 and IEP. Is that a fair assumption?
Oh, certainly. And these children will be in your class. And if you do not know how to advocate for those kiddos, they can sit there the entire year, and they might have deficits, and they're not going to be met.
Right. And so if you've identified that, Billy Smith has come into your class, he just moved there from Dallas, Texas, and you're starting to notice that he's struggling, how do you share that concern with leadership?
I would be a part of their student study team. I would come to the table and discuss with the team what struggles that I'm beginning to see. And then I would wait for feedback from the team. My big problem with that is it's often, oh, well, let's wait and see, let's wait and see, which is
And
one of
that,
the worst things.
let's wait and see. That's a fantastic model, right?
Yes,
Only if it's for
absolutely.
paint drying, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I know just from knowing you outside of this, that's been a huge frustration for you that you couldn't get the support that you felt like you needed for your kids, correct?
Monumentally, yes.
Yeah. And so tell us about you have children, right?
I do. I have a 20-year-old son. He is autistic. He's emerging verbal, and currently he is in the 18 through 21 program.
Okay. And tell us about your journey with him. I'm sure that helped you, as you said earlier, pivot and focus on something that you maybe hadn't planned on, correct?
Oh, certainly it did. So when Mikey was diagnosed with autism, PDDNOS, so pervasive development disorder, not otherwise specified, I began the journey when he was 18 months old on how to take his struggles and meet his needs so he would then be able to communicate with all of us.
Yeah.
And fortunately or unfortunately, because I believe everything happens for a reason, I learned very quickly that those who advocate properly for their students and their kiddos are going to receive the services, but you have to know what the services are and you have to know whether they're happening or not.
And I would think, if you work someplace, like let's say I worked at a tire place, I would think I would get a much better deal being a tire place employee. So was that your experience being an educator in the school district where your son with a disability went to school?
You would think that.
Yeah.
You would. Yes. No, that's certainly not what happened. After 27 years of being in the county, I am having extreme difficulties showing them what he is capable of doing.
Right.
And I would have expected that they would be, yes, you're one of us. Please, we're going to take care of you. We're going to take
Yeah.
care of everyone, but you're one of us. Come on, let's make a valiant effort. And that certainly is the opposite of what has happened.
Yeah. So when I teach and train or have, we do conventions, the one word that comes up when people come up to our booth or interact with us is that special education is a fight. Was that your experience?
Oh, totally kung fu full on fighting. Absolutely. You can come with all your data, with all your concerns, with all of the professionals that you work with your child, and videos and audios, and it is still a monumental struggle.
Right. And so did your son Mikey get the services he needed when he was little?
Certainly not.
And how did you come to know that he didn't get the services earlier?
When I looked at his records, I kept them all. I didn't necessarily know what they meant. When
Yeah.
I went back through all of the records, I realized that even though he had speech language services, the provider showed up once in 6 months. But I didn't
Oh,
know what call logs were. So I realized that literally on paper, he did not receive his services. And one of the biggest issues is he should have had speech and language to include oral motor in his mouth. And I didn't find out until he was 18 years old that that was not happening. And now we're having to do oral motor therapy to make his tongue work, which is probably the reason why he had so many issues with speaking, with swallowing, and communicating.
right. And so your teaching career came to I would say an abrupt end. You want to tell us about that?
It did. It's burned into my mind. It was January 20th of 2021. I went to school that day and I just could not stop crying. So you can't teach children when you're crying. And we were sitting in an MTSS meeting where I'm leading the meeting and I have all my colleagues. I love them dearly still. And we're sitting there trying to get the help that we need for not only the kiddos that I have in my tier 3 group, but the entire school. And when you're sitting there and they're telling you, well, no, that's not going to happen for this kiddo because the county doesn't want that. They're not going to fight the parents, regardless if they're right or wrong. It's just easier to placate the parents. That doesn't get the kiddos the help that they so desperately need, whether it's academic, behavioral, emotional. And we had severe cases, so many of them, even in the affluent school that I was in.
Wow. And so that day you were crying, what happened?
I went to my principal and my assistant principal, and I told them I could no longer do this. I can no longer advocate for these children and the teachers who are also crying, trying to get what they need. We're following your systems, the systems of the county. We're doing exactly what you need. And when we get to the end, there's nothing there. I can no longer do this. It is not right. And it's true. I know this sounds silly. It hurt my heart and my soul. And I had to go out and find another way to help these kiddos. If I couldn't do it from inside the school and
Yeah.
I'm crying and my mental health was terrible, I had to go find another way to do it outside.
And how did you find another way?
Well, crying on the floor. I was on my phone just trying to make it through the day. And on TikTok, I found Special Education Academy and Karen Mayer Cunningham. And literally sitting up against the recliner, I started listening to you. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's training for this. And, they need, advocates. I could do this. So I took the 2-day intensive course, and it was mine forever because I could listen to it over and over, and it calmed me down. I knew there was a way that I could listen to this, become educated and knowledgeable, and go forward and help everyone, my teacher friends, my kiddos, my relatives, my family. And one of the biggest things that I learned on that day and going forward was there was law behind this. There was
Yeah.
IDEA law behind this, and it supported not only what Karen said, but what I thought should be happening.
Right.
And it was amazing.
Awesome. And you are one of the most amazing advocates I've ever had the honor to train. It's always an honor that, we get to train educators because they're so in it. They're just frustrated sometimes with their leadership. Their hands are literally tied. I think you might have been the person or somebody else at a training we were at that said teachers are prepped and hushed. Do you ever have that experience?
Oh, certainly. And not only teachers and paras and psychologists and MTSS coordinators and reading coaches. Absolutely. You can have a very miserable life if you speak up on behalf of these children and it's not fitting into what the county wants for this child or doesn't want.
So let me ask you a question. So you're a full-time special education advocate now, correct?
I am.
And so had you ever had your own business? Have you ever worked for yourself? Did you have some framework to go on?
I had nothing. I
And
had
so
dust on the floor that I was sitting on.
and so what gave you the thought or the belief that you could do this?
Well, when I started taking the 2-day intensive course, I found out there was a TikTok live every week, and I started listening to the other parents sending in their questions and having Karen answer them live right then and there. And then I heard about the Special Education Academy, and I went into that, and I'm like, my hair is standing up on my arms. It was all of this training for such a reasonable price. I thought it was a joke. I
Oh,
thought it was going to be clickbait. It wasn't. When I got into the academy, I literally could not wait for that day of the week to come. And I would sit there and I would listen and I would train, and it all made sense. And then to have the TikTok lives, to have the academy, to have that 2-day intensive course where Karen was telling me, you are going to be prepared to sit at that IEP 504 table. And did I believe her? I thought, yeah, she believes in all these other people. It's not going to be me, but I'll get closer. But then I found out it was me, and I could go to the table and be successful.
and so tell us about switching from being a mom of a child with a disability, an employee of a very large school district for 27 years. Thank you for serving our kiddos. How has it been being a special education advocate serving families all over the nation?
It is amazing. It is truly amazing. Special education is a very small world, and I am figuring this out. And that has two ways to go. I am working a lot with the colleagues and professionals that I once worked for. And that is interesting because the things that I taught my teachers in my schools about MTSS and RTI and special education was wrong. But I was taught that way
Right.
from the county. So now I'm in the meetings with them and they're looking at me like I have two heads. I back it up with the law, with my
Right.
IDA. And then the other part is I am taking parents and families from crying on the floor to getting what their children need. It is spectacular. I can help as many families as I possibly can that time allows. And there is nothing like coming away from that IEP 504 table with a solid plan IEP 504 that will help this child and have accountability.
Awesome. That's so good. So a lot of times, probably 3/4 of the people that we end up training in Special Education Academy are actually school-based members, which wasn't my thought when I started it, but it's what an honor. And then also what sadness that they don't have that training in their school. But to round this out, what would you say to a teacher that seems like such a big leap? I couldn't do it. I don't know if I can make a living at it. It's too hard. I don't know that. I'll just move to another school district where they're nice to me. What would you say to them?
Wholeheartedly pivot, do it. If I, in the middle of an extreme mental breakdown, caring for an elderly mom, having a special needs son, and step siblings of seven, five were special needs, you can do it. Seriously, all the people who said you can do it, if I did it, you can do it. Truly, if I could do it, and I did, pivot. This is your chance. It's systematic. There's so much support in your TikTok, in your academy, in the specialeducation.com. You go and you get your training. Do it. You are not going to be able to go to another county. It is the same everywhere. And we all know that leadership and a principal can make a big deal. However, with my principal and my assistant principal, who were supportive,
Yeah.
they still have to follow the rules and the guidelines of the superintendent of the district. And it's just not going to be the outcome you're looking for. Pivot and change. You're going to be successful. You're going to take these courses. And you just say, I'm a special education advocate, and literally everyone knows someone who needs your help.
Yeah.
Have your cards ready.
There's 8 million people, 8 million children that we know of in America that have an IEP. I don't know how many millions have a 504. And those families need support, whether it's a records review or to go with them. And, you said it's the same everywhere. You're talking about where you live, but you've had now the time to advocate for people literally from New Hampshire to San Diego to Alaska to Miami-Dade County. Is it the same everywhere?
It is the same
It is.
everywhere.
I know. I know. Yeah. And so I can't thank you enough for coming on. Would you be open to coming back another time and share more of your story?
I certainly will. Absolutely. And thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. If you guys ever need any help from us, just reach out to us. We're at advocate at specialeducationacademy.com. And we have tons of trainings on specialeducationacademy.com. Thank you for joining us, Cindy. And we'll see you in the next training.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Hit subscribe, share this with a friend, and you know what? Meet me back here every single week. We're not just talking about change, we're making it. Because when you know better, you do better. And when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody.